Pretty Girl Club, welcome to the Creepyoticals series. This is where the Exoticals discuss things going on in the YouTube streets, in the internet streets, and we kind of come together and gossip about what's going on. So I saw on the Black Girl Reddit proof of my talking points, so I wanted to use this video as an example of a cautionary tale of what not to do because a lot of people like to use exoticals as examples of what not to do in relationships, so we're keeping the same energy over here. But this girl in this post, she actually admits that she compares her self-worth to women who are lighter skinned or women who are non-black. So she said, "I wish I felt beautiful and desired like other girls seem to." And I want to talk about this because a lot of people think that in the exotical space that we're just trying to say like, oh, we just look better and that's why people are jealous. No, it's not about your looks. This girl is admitting in her first sentence, it's about her wishing that she felt beautiful, like how other girls feel. So anytime you hear somebody say, oh, you think you're cute, or you're not even cute enough to be acting like that, anytime you hear someone say rhetoric like that, it's because they can sense your aura. They can sense the fact that you actually feel beautiful. They can sense the fact that you feel like you're desirable. And it's actually the confidence that some women are jealous of. It's not just the appearance. It's the confidence that you have and the lack of insecurities. So she says, "I wish I felt beautiful and desired like other girls seem to. Even though I'm working on myself, I still get jealous sometimes. It's hard not to when I look around and feel like other girls, especially lighter skinned or white girls, get attention and love way easier than I ever have." Okay, so let's stop right there. So this girl is admitting that she is judging other women based on how much attention and love they receive from others. So that's what the deep-seated inferiority complex is about. It's about the fact that some women feel like you are getting more love, you're getting more attention, you're getting more recognition than them. This is why a lot of people don't want you to talk about being mixed. They don't want you to talk about your complexion. They don't want you to speak on anything that makes you stand out. It's because they know you're going to get attention. And attention is currency. But this girl is revealing that her deep-seated jealousy comes from the fact that other girls are getting attention. Have you ever been around a woman who gets mad when you get a compliment? Or somebody who downplays you or says that you're being conceited? Or somebody who says you're soaking up all the attention? Well, it's because of this sentence right here. She says that she literally gets jealous based on other girls getting attention. She says, "I'm a tall, skinny black girl. I'm 5'10", really dark-skinned, and I have a wide nose." I find it interesting that she mentioned having a wide nose because, they made fun of Glorilla for having a wide nose, and now they're trying to backtrack and be like, oh, having a wide nose, well, that was beautiful. She looked beautiful how she was. But whenever the exoticals are not looking, when they go into their own unambiguous black spaces, they're admitting what they truly are self-conscious about. So she's saying that she's self-conscious because she's tall and skinny, 5'10", very dark skin, and has a wide nose. She says, "I have had guys tell me straight up that I'm not their type because of my skin color." Okay, so notice how her first trauma, the first reason that she lists for being insecure is because of men. She literally says that she's insecure because she's tall, dark skin, has a wide nose. Then she tells you why. It's because guys have told her that she's not their type. So do you see how male-centered some women's self-esteem is? And this is why I talk so much about decentering men, because if you base your self-worth on how much male attention you get or how much love you get from a man, you're always going to be on kind of this emotional roller coaster. So I've noticed that some women who struggle with inferiority complexes, they're on these emotional highs and lows depending on how a man responds to them. So it's like if a white man compliments her, she's happy. And then if a black man says, oh, you're not my type, then she's sad. Well, it's because she has a male-centered version of self-esteem. So that's what she's revealing right here in this sentence. She says that she's insecure about her features because she's had guys tell her that she's not their type because of her skin color. She said one guy even said I would be perfect if I wasn't dark. That really messed with my head. It made me feel like my skin and my face are the reasons love feels so far away from me. Okay, so I have a question. I'm wondering what race that person was that said she'd be perfect if she wasn't dark. Was that a black person that said that? Was that a black man that said that? So is it internalized colorism within the black community? Because a lot of times I hear people calling, they throw out the word colorist, texturist, and featurist, but oftentimes the main colorists are people within the black community. So I'm suspecting that the person that said she'd be perfect if she wasn't dark, I'm suspecting it was probably someone black. But if it was someone white or someone non black who made that comment, my question for women who have colorism trauma is if the white community won't accept you, which is what a lot of you guys tell biracials, a lot of you guys say, oh, your white side won't accept you, Indians won't accept you, Hispanics won't accept you. Then you come on to Reddit and you have stories about your white boyfriends not liking your 4C hair. You have stories about your non black boyfriends making ignorant comments. But then, as a collective, we see a lot of them rushing and thirsting over these non black men. So it's like, which one is it? Do you want to be accepted by the non black people or not? So she said it makes her feel like her skin and face are the reason love feels so far away from her. So, right there in that sentence, she's actually admitting her deepest desire. She's letting you guys know in her post that her self esteem comes from getting love from a man. And she's admitting that she views her skin tone, her dark skin, and her face as a handicap because she says, my skin and face are the reasons that love feels so far away from me. So when it comes to having an inferiority complex, for some women, they feel like anything that can cause a man to think they're unattractive or, anything that could hinder her dating life, she views that as a social handicap. Because in the case of this girl posting this, her whole entire social life and self-esteem, according to her own talking points, it revolves around dating and romance. So she felt rejected because of her dark skin. She felt rejected because of her face. She's saying that her face is stopping her from getting love. So I want to point this out too. Somebody not being sexually attracted to your face, that's not colorism. And this girl, she didn't say that it was colorism, but I just want to point that out. If somebody thinks you are unattractive in the face, that's actually not colorism, and that's actually not racism because people don't owe you a romantic relationship. They don't owe you saying that you're beautiful or attraction. They don't owe you their physical attraction. So I can actually hear some entitlement coming out in this girl's post. It's very similar to incels where they'll be like, oh, well, women rejected me because I'm short or they rejected me because I'm fat. That's what this girl is saying. She's saying men rejected me because I'm tall and skinny and dark skinned with a wide nose. That sounds very similar to incels who say women rejected me because I'm fat or I have a big nose or they don't like my facial features. So they're admitting they have been told that they're essentially ugly or not attractive in the face. And remember how I talked about the incel mindset versus femcel mindset? So I believe that when it comes to a quote unquote femcel, it's basically a woman who is male centered. She deeply desires to have like romance, but she can never attain the romantic attention she's always wanted. So that's kind of what this girl is talking about here. But she said, I have liked guys who ended up falling for my lighter skinned or Latina friends. So once again, I'm curious of what kind of men she has liked who fall for the lighter skinned or Latina friends, because a lot of black women on the internet now they're trying to say that like, oh, there's no such thing as like people having more of a preference for light skinned or non-black women. They'll be like, oh, people like dark skinned black women just as much as any other woman. Okay, well, this girl is saying that the guys that she fell for, they like the lighter skinned or Latina friends. So it's like, do these men have preferences or not? But do you see how male centered she is? She's basing her current self-esteem on her past traumas. So she's essentially living in the past. Her psyche is stuck in the past, and she keeps replaying these rejections in her head from these men who happen to like women who were Latinas or light-skinned. She said, and yeah, they're pretty, I get it. But it still makes me wonder, what if I looked like them? Would life be easier? Would I finally feel like the girl who actually gets chosen? So I find it interesting that she actually admits that they're pretty. So it's like, okay, why can't it be that the guy likes the girl because she actually is pretty, or because they have a good personality, or maybe they have things in common? Because a lot of women with this femcel mindset, they feel like everything is just based on looks. And don't get me wrong, men are actually very shallow, so I understand. But it's like when it comes to actual long term relationships, a lot of times it's looks, and it's also you having things in common with the person. Maybe you guys have a similar lifestyle. So notice how she instantly skips over the fact that, yeah, her friends, her light skinned and Latina friends, are actually pretty. So, they're actually attractive. She kind of brushes over that as if that's not a valid enough reason to get male attention. And it's like she just admitted one paragraph before that she has been told that her face is unattractive and that her friends are attractive. So she actually admitted the problem right there. It's not blackness. It's not the blackness. It's the fact that, according to her own talking points, that her face, her face card declined or whatever, or that's how guys have treated her. And she's saying, what if I look like them? Would life feel easier? Would I finally feel like the girl who actually gets chosen? So do you see how she feels rejected because men haven't chosen her? So it's this mindset of, if men reject me, then I'm going to reject myself. I don't feel chosen by men, so it means that I'm some sort of loser. So do you see how male-centered that actually is? This is why I say it's very important to have that internal locus of control, because then you're not sitting around waiting for a man to tell you you're beautiful. You're not waiting for a man to choose you or to finally make you feel seen and heard and validated. You can actually take back your power and validate yourself. But she says, sometimes I imagine being a beautiful Asian girl or someone who fits more of society's beauty standards. It's not that I don't love who I am. I do. I am black and Indian and proud. But I'm also tired. Tired of being overlooked. Tired of people always asking what I am or acting like I'm too different to be loved. It's draining. Okay, so she says she's black and Indian, so Indians are South Asian. Unless she's talking about being native, like I don't know. And also, I feel like if she truly was black and Indian or truly identified as mixed race, why would she be in the Black Ladies subreddit? Like, why wouldn't she go to the mixed race subreddit? So this is kind of implying that maybe she has a little bit of Indian admixture, but still identifies as an unambiguous mono dark-skinned black woman. This is what she says. She says she's really dark-skinned and she has a wide nose or whatever. So her experience, it does not align with the average black and Indian mixed race woman. So that's why I'm saying it sounds like her experience is more like she's unambiguous with a little bit of admixture, and she can relate more to the traumas of unambiguous dark-skinned black women. She says, I'm tired of being overlooked, tired of people always asking what I am, or acting like I'm too different to be loved. It's draining. And then she says, I know other girls go through stuff too. I'm not saying they have perfect lives, but when it comes to dating, it really feels like some girls just get more chances just because they look a certain way. That's hard to deal with when you're trying so hard to love yourself and stay confident. Okay, so she's actually acknowledging the existence of pretty privilege. And a lot of people, they conflate pretty privilege with colorism. Also, I find it interesting that her identity changes within 3 paragraphs. So in the second paragraph, if you look on here, she says, I'm a tall, skinny black girl who's really dark skinned with a wide nose. And then 2 paragraphs later, suddenly she says she's black and Indian. And then she says she wishes that she was a beautiful Asian girl, but Indians are Asian. They're South Asian. So it's like, okay, which one is it? How are you black and Indian, but you don't know that Indians are South Asian? But then a couple paragraphs before, you said you're a dark-skinned black girl with a wide nose. So that's part of what's making me think she could be one of those unambiguous women who just doesn't like herself. And so that's why she's like, oh, actually, I'm part Indian. You know how some people do that in the black community? They'll be like, oh, actually, we're all Native American, or like, your grandma was like a quarter Indian or she was a quarter Native. That's kind of what this sounds like. Because if she's claiming to be mixed, well, she already said that she was black and dark skinned. She's in the Black Lady subreddit. But then 4 paragraphs down, she says, oh, actually, I'm black and Indian. But then she doesn't know that Indians are South Asian. Because she says she imagines being a beautiful Asian girl. Okay, well, if you're part Indian, you were technically part Asian already. So that's why I feel like that's probably a lie or like a coping mechanism or something. But she said, I know other girls go through stuff too. I'm not saying they have perfect lives, but when it comes to dating, it really feels like some girls just get more chances because they look a certain way. It's hard to deal with when you're trying so hard to love yourself and stay confident. I'm in therapy. I'm trying to work on these thoughts. I'm not saying this for pity. I just needed to say it somewhere. I don't want to change who I am or bleach my skin, but I'd be lying if I said I never thought about it. I just want to feel loved and seen, like the way other girls seem to be. Okay, so she's admitting that she actually associates bleaching or lightening your skin or being light skinned. She associates that with being more loved and seen. So that actually proves my talking point that I really do think sometimes black women can actually be jealous of bleachers because they associate even bleaching, not even just being naturally light skinned. No, this girl's admitting that she actually associates bleaching subconsciously. She associates even that with increasing your visibility because you're still no longer dark skinned, even if the skin tone is like fake or whatever. She says, right now, it feels so far away. I feel like I'm not actually living the woman's experience because being unattractive and being not the ideal woman makes life even harder and sadder. Please don't judge me. I'm trying. So notice how she says that being not the ideal woman makes her feel like she doesn't have a woman's experience. So this actually supports my talking point that a lot of women with inferiority complexes, they're insecure not just about blackness or skin tone, but about their fundamental womanhood. So about their actual femininity. And it's because they're tying femininity and beauty. They're conflating femininity with beauty. They feel like if you're beautiful, obviously you're perceived as more feminine. And there is a such thing as like feminine privilege. So notice how she ultimately linked that back though to being lighter skinned or white or Asian. Basically anything that's like not a dark skinned black woman. Even though she tried to backtrack 3 paragraphs in and say that she was black and Indian. But this person commented and says, although I've never wanted to bleach my skin, I've always wanted to disappear. Okay, so that's actually even more extreme. So this is on the Black Lady subreddit. So it's supposed to be kind of an empowering, uplifting advice community for black women. So this girl, instead of encouraging this other black woman, she literally starts off the paragraph by saying, hey, I can't relate to the bleaching thing. So basically, you're on your own with that one, but I've always wanted to disappear. Okay, disappearing from this earth, that would mean that you're literally unalived. So like that's even worse. That's not helping this black woman that came here looking for support. Telling her that, hey, I'm also a dark-skinned black woman and basically I wanted to disappear. That's not empowering to the person who commented. She says, I didn't want people to see me and I still don't. As a black woman, we are taught that we are ugly. Are we ugly? Absolutely not. But it's so visible and transparent how people see non-black women versus how they see us. We are like a subset of femininity where seeing us as beautiful is extracurricular or treated like volunteer work. So she actually exposed in her second sentence that she is scared of visibility. So that proves my talking point when I said a lot of unambiguous women have the fear of being seen because whenever you have high visibility, you also have a higher level of criticism. Because nobody can criticize somebody that's invisible. You're not seen, so you're more safe. If you're invisible, you're definitely more safe. So that's why this girl says that she wanted to disappear because she felt like she would be more safe not being visible. So they're going through this cognitive dissonance, these black women. They're going through a cognitive dissonance where it's like they want to be seen, they want to be heard and validated, but at the same time, they don't because, you don't want to go through the criticism. So it's like you want the pedestalization, but you don't want the dark side that comes with being pedestalized. So do you see that inferiority complex, how it still creeps back in? Do you see how feeling inferior, it ultimately makes you not ambitious because you don't want your inferiority to be exposed? So that's why she wants to disappear, because she basically doesn't want people to call out her flaws. So both of these women, they're basically admitting that they view their blackness as a flaw. And she says that as a black woman, we are taught that we are ugly. Okay, who's we? Because I know plenty of black women that don't think that they're ugly. I know hundreds of black women in real life who do not think that they're ugly and whose parents did not teach them that they're ugly because of their blackness. So this girl that's commenting, she's throwing the entire black female community in on this, saying that, black women as a whole are just taught that we're ugly, which is false. That's completely false. And then she says, are we ugly? Absolutely not. But it's so visible how people see non-black women versus how they see us. Okay, so what people is she talking about when she says, people see non-black women differently than they see us? Who are these people that they want validation from so bad? That's my question to this person who commented that. It's like, people see non-black women different. What people? Whose approval are you trying to get? What kind of people? Men? Is this a male-centered anger that you got here? Is this a white male-centered anger? Who are these people that you feel favor non-black women versus black women? And then she said that blackness is essentially a subset of femininity where seeing us as beautiful is extracurricular or treated like volunteer work. By who? By racist? Why are you basing your identity around racist? So do you see the external locus of control? She's making an entire paragraph centering her self-perception around what racist and colorist people think of her. Oh, people think that we're ugly. We've been taught that we're ugly. The only people that would teach that blackness is ugly would be actual anti-black people. So my question is, why even pay attention to those people and why internalize the messages that anti-black people would want to send to you? And then she says, when we peel back a layer of that, it's even more within the black community. Or what type of black woman are you? Light, dark, natural, relaxed? It never ends. We get picked apart about everything until there's nothing left. Then people act surprised when we have little to no self-esteem at all. So once again, she's throwing all black women under the bus. She's saying they get surprised when we have little to no self-esteem. It's like, no, sis, speak for yourself. You call yourself a black queen in your username, but you're admitting that you have no self-esteem. So that's not an entire black community problem. That's a personal problem. That's why it's called self-esteem. It's not called black community esteem, because it's not the responsibility of the entire black community to randomly prop you up, a random user on Reddit. No, that's your own responsibility to build up yourself. And then she says, whether it was friends, family, schoolmates, we're always made aware that no matter how good we look or how good of a person we are, we will never be on the same tier as non-black women. What kind of friends, family, and schoolmates would say that? Like, name names, because a lot of them will say stuff like, oh, well, in school, I received this type of messaging about blackness. Okay, who gave you those messages? White Hollywood? She's naming friends, but she's not naming actual scenarios. And I'm convinced that a lot of black women with inferiority complexes are literally running away from this invisible colorist boogeyman. They're literally being tormented by a colonizer who lives in their own heads. And this girl is generalizing, basically saying that her friends, her family, and her schoolmates told her that, no matter how good she is, that she'll never be on the same tier as non-black women. I call bullshit. I actually don't believe that. I don't believe that. I don't believe that every single one of her friends, every member of her family, and every single schoolmate. Think about how many children are in a public school. There are thousands of children in public schools. So you're telling me that every friend you've ever had in your life, every family member, every black family member, and every person at your school has said that no matter how good you look or how good of a person you are, you'll never be on the same tier as non-black women? That sounds like a lie. That sounds like an exaggeration. So do you see this mindset of kind of turning you're making a mountain out of a molehill? So a lot of women who have this mindset of inferiority, they will take one colorist experience or one trauma or maybe a few traumas, and then they'll say that it was all their friends, family, and schoolmates. It's like, no, maybe it was one friend, maybe it was one family member, maybe it was a few schoolmates, but to throw the entire black community in on that, or the entire, education system, your whole entire extended family, no, that sounds like an exaggeration. But a lot of women, they go so deep into their own spiral to the point where they start to have this mindset of, everybody's against me. Everybody hates me because I'm black. Nobody likes me because of my skin color. The invisible colorism boogeyman is going to come get me. And then when you ask them, okay, give examples. Like, when was the last time that you were walking down the street and somebody legit was like colorist? They can't even name an example in a lot of cases. But she says, I remember being told in first grade by another classmate black people were ugly, and the principal didn't even condemn what he said. She just said, you can't say that here. Okay, so notice how the example that she cites to back up her talking point is an example of something that happened in first grade. So she's literally allowing a scenario of a 7-year-old idiot. You know, children are not very smart when they're that young. Obviously, they don't understand all the aspects of like racism and stuff. So she's allowing a childhood experience to shape her entire identity as an adult. Now, if that's not living in the past, I don't know what is. So this is why I say a lot of women with these inferiority complexes, they're running away from this colorist boogeyman. And then if you ask them, like, okay, what was the colorist experience? What was your last colorism experience? Oh, 30 years ago, somebody said that they don't like my dark skin. And it's like, okay, am I going to allow some idiot or some ignorant child, am I going to allow a 7-year-old to control the trajectory of my life decades later? I mean, if that's not mental illness, I don't know what is. And then she said, it's probably a coping mechanism, but I don't even acknowledge my beauty. When people ask me if I think I'm pretty or they call me attractive, I tell them I just exist. Okay, so she's admitting that she doesn't even accept compliments from others. So if they say, hey, you're really pretty, mad black queen, she'll be like, oh no, I just exist. She says, I'm not beautiful. I'm not ugly. I'm just one tiny speck on the earth. Okay, so she's actually revealing the real issue, which is what she thinks of herself. She thinks that she is unremarkable. And remember, this is supposed to be an advice Reddit. This is supposed to be a Reddit thread that is empowering to black women. So you had the first black girl come on there and talk about her experiences. And now this girl literally started off this whole rant about wanting to disappear, how she's not beautiful but not ugly. She's just a tiny speck on the earth. And this is supposed to somehow help the black woman who left the original comment. So she's admitting that she thinks she's not special. So anytime you see a woman with an inferiority complex say that you are just a regular black girl, just remember this comment right here. Because a lot of women who make comments like that, they're projecting. They think inside that they are just a regular black girl or just a tiny speck on the earth. So that's why they're trying to project that onto other random black girls or light-skinned black girls, mixed black girls. They'll project that onto you because that's how they feel about themselves. They have not given themselves permission to be confident or to think they're beautiful. And so if they see you being confident and beautiful, it's this mindset of, how dare you think you're cute? But she says, I've heard too much said about myself when I was younger, and black women in general, to believe it when people tell me I'm pretty. So she admits again, she doubles down, and she admits once again that she's living in the past. Her identity is based on how she was treated when she was younger. So she's not letting go of these bullying experiences or kind of these traumas. And by the way, I'm not saying that you have to let go of that stuff because, you shouldn't minimize that. You have the right to process your emotions. But instead of her actually processing it and trying to overcome the colorism that she experienced in the past, she's admitting that she is holding on to it because she says that she now doesn't believe she's beautiful because of what people said when she was younger. So she is actively admitting that she still has those voices from childhood basically repeating in her head, like you're ugly or you're too dark or whatever. And she didn't even give examples of exact things that people said to her other than the first grade example. But it's like, imagine still replaying other people's negative words about you 30 years later, 40 years later. So she says, it's just easier for me not to acknowledge it. I'd rather be called ugly because I can say that's not true. If you tell me I'm attractive, I'm just going to assume you're lying or trying to cheer me up, and I'd rather not have to think about it at all. So she's also admitting that because she doesn't feel beautiful, that nobody else can convince her she's beautiful. And that goes along with my talking point. That's exactly what I say. It's women who have inferiority complexes, it's their own internalized mental illnesses that causes them to think they're not beautiful. It's not random other colorist people. Somebody else commented and said, I feel this so hard. Every time I'm told I'm attractive, I say thank you, but in my mind, I'm like, sure, especially when men do it. I often wonder if it's coming from a place of wanting their balls rubbed, or do they genuinely and innocently think I'm pretty? So, do you see how they're actually admitting that even if a man compliments her beauty, that man is going to have to jump through a whole bunch of hoops to prove that he's actually telling the truth about her beauty? Because this is now the second black woman who is saying she doesn't even believe men when they compliment her. So it's kind of like this mental illness where you want external validation, but then when you receive that external validation, you don't actually believe it. So it's basically pointless. So do you see how they're constantly in this state of spiraling? And then she says, I dated a guy who said verbatim, I prefer light skinned black women. I think 40% of dark skinned black women are attractive, and 60% of light skinned black women are attractive. Mofo thought we'd be cool after he said that. I raised hell until we broke up. Okay, so she's admitting that she dated a colorist. So do you see how on YouTube, I notice a lot of them on YouTube, they'll be like, oh, mixed and light skinned women, they only date colorists. Okay, well, here's a dark skinned, unambiguous black woman admitting that she dated a colorist. So I'm going to give the same talking point that they give to Exoticals, which is, well, should have chose better. You're bad at picking, you're bad at vetting because you are attracted to colorist men. And then also, a guy's dating preferences, though. Someone being attracted to people who happen to be light skinned. By the way, she actually says the guy's quote. She said that he's attracted to both light and dark skinned women. He just said that he was attracted to a higher percentage of light skinned women. So it's like, okay, so now if you prefer light skinned women, you're colorist, and you're also colorist if you prefer both light and dark skinned women, but you happen to be attracted to more light skinned women. And it's like, okay, just admit that you don't want anybody to like light skinned women, because it seems like anytime someone says something positive about a person of another skin complexion, you're labeling it as automatically being colorist. It's like, what did you want this guy to say? Did you want him to say, oh, actually, I prefer dark skinned black women more than I prefer light skinned black women? Because I feel like that's really what she wanted. She wanted to hear this man say dark skinned women are at the top, basically, because I've noticed a lot of them struggle really badly with hierarchy thinking, which is a part of why she's offended by this comment. And also, if you're so concerned with being a man's type, I mean, just admit you're male centered then. Just admit, I'm male centered. I really, deep down inside, I want a guy to say that he prefers my exact phenotype above all else. But then if a guy does say that, like let's say there's a white guy who says, oh, I only prefer dark skinned black women above all else, then people will say he's fetishizing. So do you see how you're damned if you do, damned if you don't? It's like they want compliments, but then you can't compliment them because you did it incorrectly. So him saying that he liked 40% of dark-skinned women, that's not enough. He should have said that he liked 70% of dark-skinned women. And then she even admitted that they were no longer cool after that. So she started beefing with a guy because he said that he was attracted to light-skinned women. So she's actually starting an active beef because she said, he thought we would be cool after that, and I raised hell until we broke up. So she's actually admitting that she essentially abused the man. She said she raised hell. Okay, so that's a form of emotional retaliation. So she's retaliating and lashing out emotionally on this colorist man instead of simply just either breaking up with him or decentering men. No, she wanted to go out of her way to torment some random guy because he happened to be attracted to light-skinned women. So I don't know if the guy was black or if he was white, but that's not a good coping mechanism. Lashing out and throwing an aggressive tantrum, that's what gets people stereotyped. That's what gets people labeled as aggressive or bitter or mean. You're admitting that you raised hell because this guy said that he was attracted to 60% of light-skinned women. And it's like, okay, was he only supposed to be attracted to dark-skinned women? Like, name the standard that you were looking for. Because a guy being attracted to another phenotype, that doesn't mean, oh, let me raise hell. And also, my question is, what was the point of doing that? So if you're a black woman who assumes that your guy you're dating is a colorist, instead of breaking up with him, you want to, I guess, psychologically abuse this man and torment him? And then turn around later on and get mad if you get stereotyped as aggressive and bitter? She says, like shit, I didn't know he met every black woman in the world enough to create percentages of attractiveness, and he didn't see it as disrespectful at all. Mofo had the nerve to look like Oscar the Grouch while talking about the attractiveness of black women. Okay, so Oscar the Grouch from Sesame Street, that's like a character. That character was played by a white man. Like a white man was the voice actor for that. So I'm assuming that the guy she's talking about is white, who said that he preferred light skinned women like 60%, and then he thought that 40% of dark skinned black women were attractive. So what happened to the talking point of go where you're celebrated? Sounds like she's not following her own social strategy. She's not following the main social strategy that is promoted to black women online, which is to go where you're celebrated and to make sure that you're being worshipped and put on a pedestal. So she didn't follow that. And so she somehow thought that quote unquote raising hell with this random guy would somehow heal her wounds. So do you see the strategy that some of them are using? So instead of going to a therapist or getting healing or whatever, they decide to raise hell in their environment. They want to cause emotional turmoil to whoever is around them or whoever they assume is colorist. They want to cause you emotional pain. And that's how they think they're going to get their healing. Somebody else commented and said, I get you. Same. I am tall and dark skinned and I find it hard to be desired. I realized as women, it's like we are conditioned to have to be beautiful and desirable to, I don't know, maybe a room full of people. I want to be seen as the prettiest in the room, or we aren't worth nothing. And then they also give us a list of what is universally beautiful, which is dumb. I think I realized it's not possible that all guys are going to want me, and that's fine. The cool guys that stand out want me, and that's better. You're cool, I'm cool, cool and beautiful. Sorry if it sounds messy. Okay, so this woman is doing the same thing that the last woman did, which is generalizing other women's experience and thinking that it relates to hers. She says, as women, we are conditioned to have to be beautiful and desirable to a room full of people. Where the hell did you get that talking point? Because that's completely false. Who told you that you have to be desirable to a room full of people? No, that's your personal experience. You feel that you have to be desirable to everyone in the room in order to feel worthy. That's an internalized insecurity that you have. But notice how in her comments she's saying, oh, as women, we are told that we have to appeal to everyone in the room. No, speak for yourself, sis. It's not we, because every woman is not male centered. And then she says, I want to be seen as the prettiest in the room or we aren't nothing. Okay, that's her thinking pattern. That's all or nothing thinking. It's a form of black and white thinking, which is actually a form of mental illness, if you look that up. So a lot of women with inferiority complexes have this mindset of, no, I have to be the most preferred, most pretty, most desirable, top of the hierarchy. You know, I have to create this hierarchy in my mind and be considered the ultimate, most beautiful woman in the world. Otherwise, you're a colorist. So this girl right here, she's giving the same rhetoric. She said, it's like we're conditioned to have to be beautiful and desirable, the prettiest in the room, or we aren't nothing. And then they also give us a list of what is universally beautiful, which is dumb. Okay, so who is they? Who are these invisible random people that you're seeking validation from so intensely? She said they give us a list of what's universally beautiful. Who? Name names. What person gave you a list? Are you talking about a random YouTube channel like Quove Studio? Are you talking about a specific magazine or something? Like, who are the owners of those fashion magazines that you were reading? Like, I don't understand exactly who she's talking about. So that's a part of why some of them don't overcome their inferiority complexes. It's because they never realize that they're actually being delusional and catastrophizing. So catastrophizing is kind of like over exaggerating bad experiences or kind of assuming the worst. So this woman she's catastrophizing because she says they, you know, this invisible group of racist colorist people who lives in her mind, they've made a list of what's universally beautiful. She doesn't name what the list is. She doesn't name where this magical invisible list of beauty traits came from. So do you see how a lot of their insecurities, it's really false evidence appearing real? I don't know if you guys have ever heard that acronym for fear. It's false evidence appearing real. So she's just scared. She's really just speaking out of fear. She's scared that she wouldn't be the prettiest in the room. So she's kind of projecting. She's saying, if I'm not the prettiest in the room, then I'm not worth nothing. Well, what do you ladies think? Let me know in the comment section, and I'll talk to you next time. Stay pretty, ladies.